morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world and in your day. This is the What You Know About It podcast. It's Ra with my co-host Edgar. Man, how was your 4th, man?
It was loud.
It was loud?
Feels like this year, the fireworks of the illegal kind were abundant this year.
I think everybody took it upon themselves to keep the tradition going.
And if you can't go somewhere to go watch the illegal fireworks that are done legally, then you might as well just bring them to your own backyard.
You might as well bring them to your own backyard. At least this year. I mean, 2020 has been crazy. Nah, listen, we're not saying people should go and use, illegal fireworks, but we do know people had a good time, right? We lived through it, and most of us are safe, and God bless America and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah, they definitely enjoyed it, and I mean, honestly, it kind of helped me out too. It was kind of nice to see those fireworks from home still.
Yeah, you know what? It felt good. I was sitting out there with my kids, to be honest with you, and we kind of walked the block, and I know it was a bit out of hand for some of us, but it did give us the opportunity to just kind of take our mind off the whole Corona thing and not being in our typical places and all that. So there was a lot of good to it, man. And the neighbors came out, at least where I'm at, the neighbors came out. We were all like just kind of cool talking, and it felt good.
That's cool.
Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the show where we're going to discuss what's on our minds. Edgar and I are going to, just talk about a few topics. Today we've got a crazy one for you, for some of you. But here's the cool thing about our show. We can discuss whatever you know about. Email us at the WUKAIpodcast at gmail.com, and we will read and discuss your topic on one of our future shows. Today, we're going to be talking about the Disney Star Wars trilogy. That's probably a hot button for some people. I know my man here sharing this show with me is a huge Star Wars fan. I love Star Wars too. Probably not quite as much as you, Edgar, but I think we have.
I don't know if I like love it. I do definitely like it a lot, but okay. I don't know too much about like the expanded universe kind of things. And now, I already know we've lost like half the people that have already started listening to this because they have no idea what Star Wars is.
Well, it depends.
They know if kids are into it.
Yeah, if you're the kind of person that really enjoyed the first 2 episodes and you're looking for that super thought-provoking show, we will have those. But sometimes we're just going to have fun. So this is one for the lighter ends of things because, hey, things, sometimes it's just okay to have fun. That's just where it's at. So Star Wars is something Edgar and I share. I think you're a bigger fan than me. I'm just going to say, like, I'm not into the novels and all that, but you are definitely,
I'm not into the novels either. I never read the books. Just, I did like the beginning of the year, I did watch the Clone Wars and, what was that other one? Rebels.
Yeah.
Finally. But that's probably as hardcore as I really got.
Okay, yeah. I did watch a little bit of Rebels. My son got off into Rebels really strong. He really loved it. I saw some of it. I'm not steeped in that knowledge, but okay, let's get into it. So, The Force Awakens. Walk me through your anticipation for this movie, all right? Like, the trailers come out, Chewie, we're home. That was the trailer that got me, right? What was it for you? This movie's coming out. Walk me through the feels that you had.
I got chills again from you just saying that when Chewie says we're home, because like that line like alone was the one that like just like floored everybody. I feel like. Right. I think nobody was expecting to see Han Solo and Chewie. I don't think at least not in an immediate like first trailer or whatever.
Right.
But once we saw him, you were just like, damn, like, okay, like cool. This is going to hit like everybody now. Like, it's not just for new kids that are getting into Star Wars and Disney's taking over and, they're putting the mouse on everything. But it definitely hit the feels for a lot of the old school fans.
Well, that was kind of it, though. It was kind of like, so where are we going with this, right? The Mouse House, they have Star Wars now. What are they going to do? You hear about these new characters. We see Finn right away. We don't know what his purpose is. He's just a stormtrooper taking off his helmet. He's sweating like crazy. And you're like, then you see images of Rey and all that. And you're just kind of, where is this going? Who are these characters going to be? Are we getting Luke Skywalker back? What are we getting? And then you get that drop, right? The music is there. Everything's on point. Chewie, we're home. It just, man, even me.
It started with the Falcon. Like when you saw the Falcon already, it was just like, oh, cool.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. So this movie comes out. It does gangbusters. I probably saw it 3 or 4 times in theaters. I saw it once with Jerry. I saw it with my family. And then I saw it at least one other time by myself. So I saw it about 3 or 4 times. I can't remember exactly. And it was definitely a movie that I loved sharing with specifically my daughter, right? Because of the Rey character. Now, I had big hopes for Rey as a character. And, I thought she was pretty interesting in The Force Awakens. But after that, and we can delve into this as we go on, but after The Force Awakens, I felt that they sped up her progress in such a way, but told the story in a way where it wasn't accepted. Every time she did something, it was kind of like, where did that come from? Right? Like there were no, like all of a sudden she was able to wield a lightsaber and defeat Kylo in the first movie. And then she just was able to accidentally use a Jedi mind trick. Like those sorts of things with no explanation. And it kind of felt like they didn't quite have a direction on where they were going. It was kind of like, just kind of shoot around ideas until something sticks.
Mm-hmm. They kind of they put it out, and all of a sudden, like, I don't know. I think it definitely brought a lot of people into the fandom of Star Wars, and I think it did its job. It did what it was supposed to, and it bridged that unison of old fan to new fan. So like you and your daughter, you guys now like have something in common. You know what I mean? Like it definitely helped connect a lot of people.
Yeah.
When they released Force Awakens, I'm trying to think of what was going on at Disneyland, but I remember when you started seeing little kids with these like Force Awakens shirts, and like now Disney has a prominent female lead character,
right?
Like a role model for little girls to look up to. And then Finn, like another African American person in the Star Wars universe, not just Lando anymore.
Yeah, actually, let's be PC. He's British African.
He is British African. You're right. You would not be able to tell just by watching these movies, but he's very British.
I don't know. Who cares?
He's still like, I don't know, like, and when you see him like in the movie, like you he's going to be a good character in the series as well.
Right.
Rey is definitely the standout character, but it definitely, I think it did a lot of good when they released that movie. And we'll get into the other ones in a little bit, but it definitely took a different turn once like the second and third movies come out.
Right. So for me, Force Awakens, just to stay on topic, it was perfect, right? It had those, like you just said, those memories of what it was to be Star Wars, in the past. And you know what? For some reason, when it came out, I didn't even think about the early 2000s when we got the prequels. It made me right away think about the original trilogy and what was happening there. And so,
did you feel the same way about when you saw like the trailer for Episode 1, like when that first came? Because I was kind of into Star Wars at that time. But when the trailer for Episode 1 came out, I wasn't like, oh my god, like I wasn't losing my mind over it.
What's crazy
like I did
is
Force Awakens.
Star Wars, whether I liked it or not, because of my age being born in the 80s, Star Wars has always been somewhere in my life, whether I was actually consuming it or not, right? Like if I was watching a TV show, it was referenced in some kind of way, whatever, right? And so there was this common knowledge of Star Wars, but I wasn't in love with Star Wars. And in the early 2000s, I was actually working at Pepsi at the time, and Pepsi had a sponsorship at that time. So I was giving away big life-size Yoda plush dolls at the time. And like, so we were really involved in that marketing for those 3 movies. And
The heck, what did you do for Pepsi that you were giving away life size
yeah, I mean,
like figures?
I was one of the merchandising managers there, and so I was told we had a store manager who, I don't know, based on whatever criteria, we were supposed to give him a specific doll. I was asked to deliver it. He didn't want it. And then I got told to keep it. So I lucked up in that scenario.
Cool.
I'll
take it.
Well, I later see, here's the thing, because I wasn't into Star Wars like that. I later sold it on eBay like 2 years later. Today I would have kept it, right? But
heck yeah.
Yeah, and it was a life-size like plush doll. It was big. It was, I don't know.
Anyway,
whatever.
a lot of promo going around when episode 1 came out.
Yeah,
sure.
so I wasn't quite into Star Wars like that, and it was Revenge of the Sith that actually made me really go back and watch the original trilogy. But yet and still, while I fell in like with it, I wasn't there yet, and it took me a couple more watches before I was like, yes. So I needed those years between the original trilogy and then to like really appreciate Star Wars. I don't know.
For sure. No, I'm kind of in the same boat because I enjoyed, like, as a kid, I finally, when I got to watch the original trilogy, they were great, and I loved the story and everything behind them. The prequels came out, and then I was kind of interested. Like, I was a kid at the time, and the pod racing definitely hooked me a little bit.
Okay.
I had a Nintendo 64, so when the pod racing video game came out, I was all about it.
I see. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But then Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, like, kind of lost my interest because those were heavily story driven. They weren't so much like crazy. I mean, the kind of crazy CGI and stuff like that with Attack of the Clones with all the troops and everything.
I would say
that the visuals didn't grasp me as hard as the episode 1 did.
I would say Attack of the Clones is the worst Star Wars movie ever, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I didn't like
it's up there.
I didn't like it. I didn't. I to this day I don't like that movie. I don't watch it. I can't watch it. I don't know. I can't do it. But
I think I enjoy it now more because I watched the Clone Wars. It definitely bridges the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith together.
Yeah,
that made Revenge of the Sith that much better.
They made it make sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Now you understand, like, what the heck? How in the world did Anakin become like so confident in Revenge of the Sith?
Right.
Because he wasn't as confident in Attack of the Clones or as a kid, but when you see it in Revenge of the Sith, you're like, wow, it all makes sense why he turned.
So this is I'm going to remember that point because that really goes into why I have an issue with the Disney trilogy. But in terms of getting back to The Force Awakens, I just thought it was almost perfect, right? Like it told a great story, but it gave me a bunch of questions that I knew the way the story was told was like, you're going to have to hang on and watch, these next set of movies to get where we're going. And so, they introduce a character like Snoke, who is not Sith, does not have the yellow eyes, and to kind of seems to be on a whole other tangent and is aware of Palpatine's history, Vader's history. And so you kind of go, well, who is this dude that's been like sitting in the background all this time? And why the hell was he sitting in the background? And they kind of played him as if he was going to be a greater threat than Palpatine ever was. In fact, they do things like they reference that he comes from some unknown region in space and whatnot, which if my memory serves me correctly, Palpatine used to say how something out in the nether regions was calling to him at some point. So it made me think like, is it this dude or is this dude Plagueis? You know what I mean? Like did he like not really kill his boss and like, like what are we going to get? So it gave us all these mysteries. Then it gave us General Hux, who gave that Hitler-like speech before they blew up those planets. And I was like, who is this dude? Right.
Yeah.
And so we were on point where I was upset to see Han go. But as we all know, for any of us that watches Star Wars, if there's a catwalk, someone's gonna die. It's just how it
Yep.
works. So
Pretty much.
but in my eyes, I was like, okay, they killed off Han Solo not only to give Harrison Ford what he wanted, but also to position Kylo in this almost irredeemable aspect. So we know like this dude he's bad. And we got to deal with that. So that's where I was with this. So I thought for those reasons, Force Awakens was perfect.
Yeah, they definitely did the build up right. And like you said, I mean, you really didn't know who the baddest person in that movie was.
Right.
Like you just kind of kept guessing, like, okay, maybe it's Kylo. No, he's kind of got a heart.
Yeah.
And you see him kill his own dad, and you're like, what the heck? Like you just killed your dad.
Right.
Like,
right.
Okay, you are pretty evil. But then that Snoke thing like really confused the heck out of me though.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, why is he so big?
Yeah,
Why?
like is he like 10 foot tall? Like how they gonna deal
Like,
with
what
that?
is going on?
Right. And then he disappears and he goes, well, was it a hologram or is he really, really a tall dude? Which he ended up being tall, but not like that, right? So
No, yeah.
Yeah. So it was a great setup. I thought we were ready. I didn't know how to feel when we saw Luke Skywalker at the end, but I was happy we saw him. Apparently,
the most awkward silence of all time when Rey is just holding a lightsaber out in front of him.
Can I just say he just looked like someone that got hit up with with child support payments?
Yeah.
That's what it looked like.
That's not mine.
He was like, oh man, like they found me.
Oh God.
I
really thought I got rid of that thing.
So I mean, it left you in a wonder, right? It made you think, but come to find out, behind the scenes, there was a discrepancy or some sort of misunderstanding about how much Luke was actually supposed to be in this first movie. And I found myself watching the movie, like when the big fight happened with Rey and Finn and Kylo. I thought at that point we were going to see Luke, right? Especially once you saw Finn get hurt and then Rey kind of get outclassed for a second. But I like the attention to detail, right? The reason why Rey was able to even fight Kylo, because he had been shot by Chewie previously. So he was already injured. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't at his best. So to me, that gave the perfect scenario with him fighting Finn first, probably being a little more fatigued and all that, then going to fight Rey. And him being cocky,
became a little more believable.
It made it more believable, or else how do you do that, right? Well, we get to the next movie, and all of a sudden, like she's pretty much a Jedi, right? Yeah. Like, and I'm like, well, how? Like, where does this come from? Who trained her, right? Like I'm, like you get to this part where you meet Luke. Luke doesn't like her, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't like her like right away. And so
you already know like Luke didn't train her. Okay. Not right away. Anyway.
You know what? Skip all that. You know when this movie started, it starts with the scene in Act 2. That first scene is what told me I wasn't going to like that movie.
Which part?
When he throws the lightsaber. He just chucks it like a like, what is this? Bam, it's gone. And I just like people laughed and I found it disrespectful.
Oh yeah. In theaters, I had laughed my ass off.
I mean, I laughed after the fact. I just in the moment, I was like, what? Like, no.
Like, why?
Like, I would have rather him just not take it, like looked at her like, no, I ain't touching that. I would have rather that. But then it just kind of chuck it or whatever.
But that was kind of one of the leading comedic moments that come up like in these new movies that didn't exist in any of the 6 movies before this. Like comedy just became a thing inside of every one of at least once every half hour. There's like a good like little chuckle moment in all 3 of these movies.
Right. And I don't so much mind that. It got Disney-fied a little bit and I'm okay with that. Yeah. It didn't hurt the flavor for me. I just felt like there wasn't sufficient planning for whatever reason. Like I hear things like Rian Johnson wasn't like, because when he was writing The Last Jedi, he was writing that as they were shooting The Force Awakens. So he like had no idea from what he said what was happening really in the movie before it. And I'm like, how can you write a movie like that? And then like, how can you not have like an agreed like trajectory of where these movies are going, since you already know you're doing 3 of them, and at that time they hired 3 different directors, how could you not know um what your angles are, right? And what you're going to be
Yeah.
doing. Like that made no sense to me whatsoever.
No, I think we would have been better off not knowing about all the drama that was going on behind the scenes of this movie,
Right.
because the firing and rehiring or whatever they were doing with all the directors and everything,
Right.
like it already put a bad taste in your mouth before you even saw the movie.
That's kind of what's wrong with Hollywood is we have too much access. We know too much ahead of time, but either way,
Yeah.
like if even if we didn't hear about this, like you kind of see that these movies aren't on the same path, right?
Yep.
Like they give us a story in one way, and then like it's kind of like all of a sudden, oh, Snoke's not important anymore. He's just
Yeah.
like, well, okay, you just killed off Snoke, so like I mean, it had me to the point where, and it's not always a bad thing, but it had me to the point where I was sitting there wondering how much of trickery was at play, right? Because supposedly Snoke was like kind of like Palpatine. He had like this mental control thing, right? And so when that whole little spiel about Kylo seeing his true enemy and striking true and all this stuff, like I almost thought he physically made Kylo kill him so that at some point, in some way, he was going to be more powerful. That's how far
Okay.
I went with it, right? To
Yeah.
not get all that in the third movie and just say, no, well, Snoke was really a nobody. It was just,
Yeah.
and
Which
I
it
was
kind
like,
of felt like,
such a missed
but
opportunity.
yeah, I agree that the seeing Snoke like just on that chair, and I don't know, when you see Kylo and Rey just kind of locking eyes a lot, like you just kind of knew what was about to happen already before it even happened.
Right.
But it still caught me by surprise when I saw the
Hmm.
lightsaber activate
Hmm.
and you see it go right through him, and you're just like, whoa, okay, like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that's
yeah.
an interesting move.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know, like, and I hate to read into it, but looking at the trailers for The Last Jedi made me really think, was Ryan Johnson trying to really send a message to the audience beforehand? Like some of the snippets that he took from the dialogue, this is not gonna go the way you think. It's time for the
Hmm.
Jedi to die, or however Luke said it. Stuff like that. Ma- and then to have that the way that he did it in the movie, I don't know, I found it to be very disrespectful of the past, and I'm not saying we couldn't have moved on and we couldn't move past the big 3, but I feel like the way that it was done, it was kind of like, Luke, you're not important. Han, we got rid of him last movie, and now it's just
Hmm.
Leia left, and um, we're just gonna kind of go on this other adventure. So all these other ideas are like not important. So all of a sudden now Rey's parentage isn't important at all. Okay, fine, I can live with that.
Yeah.
But if Luke was like, first of all, that's not my Luke Skywalker to
No.
me. Like, I didn't mind him being so distraught that he just wanted to go to seclusion or whatever, but at the same time, it was kind of like, okay, so Rey shows up, she finds you, and do you not like? And she says your sister's looking for you. Do you like not go look for your sister? You know what that means to you.
Yeah. Like they just become this like bitter old man. Like
Yeah, like it made no sense. It just made no sense, right? Like, I don't know. You didn't want to be found. That's why you go to Octu, but then you left R2D2 the information on how to find you. Like it just
yeah.
like the
But then
ideas didn't mesh.
like everybody like the brother and sister have the force. Like you guys
Mhm.
couldn't just use that? Can't you just activate that to like kind of figure out a little bit as to give me a clue? Like
Right, right. Well, apparently, like how they said he cut himself off from the forest, and because Ray, she said she couldn't see him, whatever. But he gave her like these 3 little lessons, right? And we get this detached version of Luke Skywalker. All right, fine, let that be. Even with all that still standing, right now, all of a sudden, you know, uh, you get Ray and you get Kylo Ren, and they have this thing, right, where their minds kind of merge, and they're kind of like in each other's environments, right? And so uh Kylo's like fascinated by this.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of like, oh, hey. And he's like not threatened by her, but every time she sees him, she's pissed, right?
Yeah.
I love that
every
dynamic.
Time.
I love that. She was just yelling at him like, I want to kill you, right? and then you explain to us through narration that Snoke is the one giving them the ability to have their minds connected. Then you kill him off, and then the connection is still happening.
Yeah.
Like, did you just forget everything you just presented to us? You know what I mean? It's like you didn't make it seem like there was a lie being told, and it's a misdirect. You gave it to us as knowledge. So I don't know.
You know that there were, but you are, and like in your head, you already know there were a bunch of rewrites.
Yeah,
like they changed every part of the story.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's like, okay, I get you guys are trying to save like every loose end. You want to try to cut it, but that was one of the loose ends that didn't get cut right. I don't think.
Right, but I mean, but here's what they come back and like Kathleen Kennedy came out and said, or one of their representatives, that they take a lot of this stuff and they leave it for the novels. And that's my problem with Disney Star Wars, is instead of finding the loose ends in your movies and then plugging them later, like how you referenced how the Clone Wars explains Attack of the Clones, or puts it in better perspective for you. Instead of finding that loophole and telling a story, they're creating these loopholes and leaving them like these obvious holes in your storytelling, which Star Wars is a movie first, before it's a novel, before it's any other kind of way that we consume Star Wars. Yeah. It's not a TV show, it's a movie first.
A movie.
So you got to tell the main story in movie form, and maybe take a page from the MCU where they, everything that's happening. I think one of the, why I love the MCU so much and how much attention they pay to it. I'll never forget how when I went to go watch Captain America, was it Captain America? No, it was Avengers 2, right? Age of Ultron, and Nick Fury shows up with the helicarrier. I was like, where the hell did he get that from? Because what you know from Captain America Winter Soldier is that S.H.I.E.L.D. does not exist anymore, right? And so in movie form, the way the story's told, you just think, oh man, there's Nick Fury. He always got resources, right? Because he left like, hey, I'll be back. I'm about to go do something. I'll be back. And then he shows back up. If you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is on TV, you figure out how he got that helicarrier. But it's not necessary for you to have consumed that.
No, I didn't question it whatsoever.
You didn't question it, right? And that's how it should be written. That's what I'm saying. Like, it has to be a situation before it's well, what happened here? It can't be like, well, there's something missing here. It can't be like that.
But see, that's the thing that I wish, like, I don't know. Like, I'm hoping that's what's going to end up happening with the High Republic stuff that Star Wars is going to start putting out. That when Disney owns it from the beginning, like they're gonna they have the giant blueprint on the wall that they're gonna do all these dots that they're gonna end up connecting at the end.
Okay,
but they couldn't do that with this one. They just kind of had to create like a little mini universe after they had already adopted that other universe by introducing these new characters. So I think it just became too complicated. But like they couldn't keep it up.
But they took it upon themselves to simplify everything, right? Because before there was all these versions of canon, and then they had the GL, whatever they called it, like the George Lucas version of canon, which is supposed to be the ultimate canon, and then these other canons. And so what they did was, before any of these movies started, they wiped away everything and said, legacy, all this other stuff, it doesn't matter. And this is canon. They took certain novels, certain movies, whatever, and made it canon to simplify everything. And then now, like, they're like screwing it all up again, it looks like.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, they kind of just closed this to, I'm hoping, start something fresh. And we're going to get to meet some new cool characters that are hopefully just going to be the new MCU. You know what I mean?
Right. I just hope that some of this, agenda driven stuff that I'm hearing is not the actual reason for it, because while, like I said, I enjoy certain aspects of it, especially me being a father to a daughter. I'm glad that she has a main character to hook onto, but let's not pretend like she's the first in Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we can go back to Ahsoka Tano. We can go back to Leia herself. You know, Leia was never projected to be like this helpless person. You know, in fact,
No.
she's a general.
Maybe in the first one a little bit.
The first one a little bit, you know, but you know, she was, but even then, like she was still like, that's why her and Han didn't get along. You know, because Han was trying to treat her like damsel in distress, and she's like,
yeah, exactly.
I'll break you off too, fool. so, you know, I just thought, you know, I think Star Wars they've always managed to. I've never watched Star Wars and thought things were driven one way, I mean, I hate to watch movies from that angle anyway.
Yeah.
And so I think I was hearing they're putting extra emphasis on this, and that's why we saw all these female characters, but it didn't feel out of place. Like I felt they did a good job with showing us these characters. I just don't think the storytelling was on point because maybe they were concerned with other things.
Yeah. I don't know what your opinion is on Rise of Skywalker. We'll get to that in a minute, but I do think that but with all things considered, they concluded everything in a good way, though. Like they definitely brought, I don't know, like I still can't get over the fact that Rey was the granddaughter of Palpatine.
But see, okay, so we made emphasis in The Force Awakens and even in the Last Jedi that her parentage isn't important. She's a nobody. Yeah. And then come to find out she is the granddaughter of Palpatine because I guess the information that they put out is Palpatine was like cloning himself and made a younger him who then had a child with someone or something like that.
Well, I didn't hear about this. What?
Yeah, that's what I heard, man. I don't even know. I don't even know because it's either that or, you know, little what's his first name? Sheev? Sheev Palpatine. Sheev Palpatine was getting this swerve on at some point, and then we got to figure out when and with who.
With some Jedi out there.
Yeah, and what did his face look like when it happened? Was it like you know, when he was doing the Force lightning? Is it that face?
Because his face just got worse, so he used a lot of the Force there.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, pun intended, not intended. I don't know.
So what do you think about Finn and him being Force sensitive?
I didn't mind it, and I thought like they've been hinting towards that since day one that he had some sort of sensitivity. I don't like how they played it out though. Like
the feelings that he would get.
It's not the feelings; it was the neediness he had. He was like super
he was
overly
such a needy little bitch.
Like even my daughter, she was like, "Dad, why does Finn keep yelling for Rey?" And I'm like, "You're right. You're like, let me tell you about my 10-year-old, dude. She is like on point. She is so on point. She called that out like right away, and I was like, I don't know why he's doing that. And she was like, yeah, like, and I was like, because you know she was fighting Kylo on
the ocean,
that ocean scene, yeah. And like you in a full on duel, and he's like, Rey, and I'm like, that's probably the last point in time you want to distract somebody.
Well, and then how in the hell did she even hear, or how is she going to hear that over the ocean? Like you saw those waves.
I don't know. But like, yeah, he kind of.
That's how
the last two movies he kind of got. They try to give more purpose in a third movie, but you know they kind of just had him on this tangent where he just was overly needy, and the only thing he wanted was to make sure Rey was getting whatever she needed. And it was funny in the first one because he had a crush on her, right? And so I thought it was a good move.
So see, J.J. Abrams came out and said that it like, every time that you hear Finn say like, I need to tell you something or whatever, that everybody keeps thinking, oh, he's in love with her and he wants to tell her how he feels or whatever.
It was age Force sensitive.
No,
right?
Like that was proof of that he was going to say like, I think I can feel the Force.
Yeah,
like I think that was him trying to admit it.
That's how I took it. That's how I took it. That's how I took it.
No.
You didn't take it that way?
He had a crush on Ray, for sure.
That was over, bro.
He wanted a chocolate vanilla swirl.
I can appreciate that. No, man. No. Hell, no. That's not it. That's not it. From the first one, it was very obvious. He had a crush on her. Like, he even asked her, like, yo, you got a boyfriend? Remember that scene? That was kind of funny. I think after that, they grew into a natural, real life friendship, and I think he was over that. I think he just cared for her. I don't think he was into her after that.
I think he forgot about her once he met the other ex stormtrooper girl and the Rise of Skywalker.
No. You want to know who got shaded? The Rose character. She even kissed him. God. Got to the third movie and it's like nothing happened.
Poor Rose. She almost died for him. And he just said, "Nope, I'll pass. Thank you for saving my life. I appreciate that, but that's it."
Yeah.
That poor girl.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I thought they could have did more with him, and I didn't need him to be like Poe, like the strapping young fighter pilot who just got it all together. I didn't need him to be that, but I didn't need him to be overly needy every 3 seconds, and I think. That was
like the exact opposite of Poe.
Yeah, that was in the end. That was my biggest gripe with what they did with Finn.
Yeah,
but I mean, I thought he was obviously comic relief in the first one. They built the story around him because that was interesting, right? Like the stormtrooper who defected. Like he internally. Something within him, and this is what I'm saying, like, to me, like, saying he was gonna tell Rey he was force sensitive, I felt like that's been hinted all along. Like, even in that last scene in The Force Awakens when he picks up the lightsaber, so I was kind of like, oh, is he gonna be a Jedi? You know what I mean? Like, he seemed so confident right there, and like that kind of felt like where the movie was driving, and I guess in a small way it still was. It just wasn't about him yet.
Yeah, see, I didn't get that feeling when he held a lightsaber. Mm-hmm. When I just saw him hold a lightsaber, it felt really out of place for me.
Ooh.
Yeah, I didn't see it where he would like be one to wield it and like know what to do with it or anything like that.
Yeah.
It would have been different if he like used the Force to like bring it to him or something.
Yeah.
Then that would have been like a oh crap kind of moment. But they didn't.
Yeah, I think he's like on some lower level Force sensitive. Like, I don't think it's meant to say like he's like Rey powerful or Jedi enough, but maybe like enough to like he can pull out a few tricks. He can tell when certain things are awry, something like that. And
he has a spider sense.
Yeah, he has a spider sense. That's perfect. But yeah, I think that's and that's where I want to see Star Wars. I want to see them play with little instances like that, since they've already. I mean, dare I say, midichlorians, right? People hate that in Star Wars.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But since that's out there. And that's canon, and that there's a variation of these midichlorians that will determine whether you're, enough to be a Jedi or like the most powerful being ever. I want to see them play with that. Like, who are the in-betweeners, right? Like the Jedis, like obviously are in a certain pool. Then you got your Master Jedis and like people like Luke or like Yoda, and Darth Vader and all that. But who are these dudes that wouldn't get selected to be a Jedi, and their Force sensitivity? What does that look like? What can they do versus someone who has, more powerful?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know.
That's where I want to see it go. I think it's going to be interesting if they do some of that, and I think like. They hinted to that in, it's a Disney movie. Also, we got to talk about it. But Rogue One, Rogue One, and I thought Rogue One was masterful.
Ugh,
I'm all
that's probably top 3 Star Wars movies ever.
Thank you.
Like they just nailed it.
They nailed it.
Like the explanation of everything, and then the final scene, man, like that really got me.
Yeah,
when you just see Vader's like all in all his glory, basically just going down that hallway.
So that's the thing about Star Wars that both intrigues me and bothers me. So a lot of what we see or what we get out of Star Wars is we got Luke. And we didn't get to see Luke go through his prime years. We didn't get to see that. We saw one story. We saw a story of him becoming a Jedi, one of him as a Jedi, and then the conclusion. We never got to see like Luke run around and be a Jedi and be a teacher and all that.
You didn't get to see it. That was the Clone Wars.
That was the Clone Wars? Do I get to see Luke Skywalker?
He basically raises Ahsoka like to become a Jedi, and that's how Ahsoka becomes Ahsoka.
That's Anakin.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Anakin. I was thinking about Anakin. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm talking about Luke.
Yeah, you really did miss out. Well, what is his prime like as far as like after Empire to Force Awakens? Like just seeing that prime?
Yeah, just let's see him every day as a like stories being told about him as a Jedi doing what he does. We didn't see that, right? We get told in the novels and in the book like, hey man, this is Master Luke who went on to do these things, whatever, and then tried to like open his own school and then, had his nephew there and bad things happened, right? Like that's the story we get. But we didn't get to see that. And, it would have been nice to see something. We didn't get to see that with Yoda even, right? Like that's the one saving grace for me with is being able to see Yoda fight. Because when we meet Yoda in the original trilogy, he's old. He's just kind of like this rambling guy and with a bunch of knowledge. He dies. We get further ahead, CGI and stuff. We get to see like his fighting style and how badass he was. Yeah. So that's the one saving grace for me with the prequels. And so same thing with Vader. You do see that in Clone Wars. You're right. And I haven't watched all the Clone Wars, and you get to see like the progression of who he becomes, but we don't get to see Vader, right? Like there's these stories about Vader, like just massacring armies of people just to get things done. I wanted to see that, right? And and like there are certain stories that got told. I don't know if it was legends or what, about how fast he can move and certain abilities that he may have had. And we don't see anything. Like what we see in the movies is just a, little choke and a little here, there, whatever he's doing. And so to see that scene in Rogue One at the end was like what I've been dying to see since I ever even fell in love with Star Wars.
Like he's got that, that he's he's got the dark side in him or whatever, but that was the first time that I got to see it like physically come out and really express like through his anger, like what kind of character he really is.
Right.
Where he just could care less about anybody else's life except pushing, his agenda.
Right.
And you saw it in that, the recent game that came out on the PlayStation. I think it came out on a lot of systems, but the Star Wars, the Jedi Fallen Order.
Okay.
It was a story-driven game about a Jedi that goes into hiding after Order 66 and basically gets discovered. Darth Vader's already around, and like in the final scene of the game, you don't. I never got to see how powerful he really was until the last scene. You guys are fighting. You get in a fight with him in this underwater base.
Okay.
This underwater base is basically glass tunnels, and one of the glass tunnels ends up breaking. And you make your way through and bust out through the water and swim your way to the top. You look back and Darth Vader is using the Force to hold the ocean up, like, so that the water doesn't consume him.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Not even struggling. You're like, what? Like, oh, like you are way more intense than I thought you were.
Man,
they make him look like a bitch when he's like screaming out when the Emperor's killing Luke.
Right.
Like they make him look too human in that point. But it makes you forget how gnarly of a guy that guy really was.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I always gave Darth Vader his due just because, especially after I became a father, right? Like just knowing how, no matter where you are in position in life that you are, if you feel, if you love your children, like the world switches for your children, and
Sure.
even though this was a child he never knew, like that was enough, to say, hey, hold on, like time out, we're not doing this. So I always gave him a pass for that scene, right? Like that vulnerable moment or whatever. Um, so I was on board with that. But yeah, man, I want to see stuff like that more often. I want to see those years, and that's why I got excited about an Obi-Wan series, because maybe
Yeah.
we get to see that, because
Yeah.
um Ewan McGregor happens to be the appropriate age now, right? So we
Oh,
can
yeah.
really play that out, and I would just like to explore that, especially if we're doing like in the style of like how Mandalorian came out. That'd be so awesome.
That's why I'm excited to see Ahsoka in The Mandalorian,
Ahsoka should be
because
good.
Ahsoka's prime years are definitely around that span when she's basically solo. She, drops the Jedi and like just kind of moves on her own, and she's just gonna have like this crazy. She already has like a crazy story arc. Like I had no idea who she was until I
Right.
watched the Clone Wars.
Right.
By the end of it, she was easily one of my favorite characters.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm
She
definitely
she
excited about that.
she's her presence is going to be a little more known, I think, after the Mandalorian, and hopefully that turns into potential for a Star Wars story, because I'm a fan of what they're doing with those like stories. Like the Solo, I thought
Mhm.
was all right. It wasn't amazing, but it definitely gave you the visuals you needed in order to figure out where Han was really from.
Can I say I didn't need that movie?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I didn't need it. I didn't need it. I left
Nobody
that
did.
movie like, all right, that wasn't the worst way to kill 2 hours. I'm like, hey, but I didn't need anything here.
It was a nice little treat between movies.
And yeah, like that was all it was for me, to be honest with you. Like I saw it twice. I saw it by myself and I saw it with my kids. And I probably will never watch it again. Like there's no reason for me to watch that movie.
I think it would have made a better TV show.
Maybe. I don't know. I just feel like certain things are better if left to your own thought processes. Like
Yeah,
I didn't need to see the Kessel Run. I
yeah,
wanted to see the Kessel Run. Everyone wants to know what it is, but
yeah. I was like, because I didn't know what it was, so
I didn't need to see it, because like now that I saw it, it feels a little less impressive than whatever I was thinking in my head. And I can't even tell you what I was thinking in my head. But that's like you certain things just never need to be explained unless you're putting it all the way to bed.
Yeah,
Which is why, on a
yeah, I
whole
can see
nother
that.
tangent, why I never really want the Joker explained in Batman. Unless we're
You
gonna
know
be
what?
done.
I've never seen like out of the newer like the new DC movies and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I've only seen like 2 of the Batman movies, and that was it. I
Really?
skipped the Joker. I skipped a lot of stuff.
Oh
I just
man.
the DC universe doesn't intrigue me as like Star Wars or the MCU does, or just
Wow.
Marvel in general.
Wow.
I'm
Wow.
probably missing out on a lot,
You
but
are.
I've got my hands full already, man.
We gonna have to work on that.
This is going to be future podcast episode ideas. Edgar's first impressions on the DCU.
Yeah, we gonna have to, man. We have to introduce you to some shit, man. 'Cause you missing out. I mean, you know what? DC has a spotty track record, but like I would say
Very.
you get some good stuff out of some of their animated work. Um, and I don't know, they've got a lot to get together, but it's not all bad. It's not all bad.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, man.
We need to get back to the Rise of Skywalker, because there was one issue that I couldn't like just wrap my head around.
Okay.
So we were talking about the connection between Rey and Kylo, and how Kylo can just jump in and out of Rey's head, and like they just have like this weird like just bond now,
Right.
right?
Neither one of them seem to be able to control it. Yeah.
How can he like imaginarily snatch a necklace off of Rey's neck through one of those like visions,
Right.
but he can't figure out where she is in that village when they're trying to erase C-3PO's brain to translate that message? They're like houses away from each other. Like, how does that not activate while they're like,
No, wasn't she? She was in the ship. She was in his quarters. She was in his quarters on his ship. They were getting
oh,
chewy.
you're right.
Yeah,
They're so far away.
but they still weren't far away. Like
Like
she was right
closer
there.
than they
Like,
were.
yeah. And you're right. You're right. Like it took for the Vader helmet to drop for him to know where she was. So
Yeah.
I mean, I just took it. I took it as there's a vagueness to it, and it's like you can kind of see what's in their immediate vicinity or where they are, and you're kind of experiencing it, but there's maybe a vagueness to it. So until something pronounced happened, maybe you don't see it. That's how I took it. So I never even
like they need an object to be like brought in order for it to actually function.
Yeah, and they happen to knock that over, right? So like,
yeah,
to an essence, like they're almost like in a cloud, and you can't even really see any. That's how I took it, because that's why he asked her in the last Jedi. He's like, hey, can you see my surroundings? Because he was trying to figure out, like, I can tell that there's other things, and I know you're not actually here, but and he was like so mean. Like, he was like, wait a minute, you're not even doing this. Like, don't even worry about it. Like, the effort alone would kill you, so I'm not even worried about you now. So she's yelling at him, and he's like trying to figure out what the hell's going on. He's not even listening to her. So I get what you're saying. I don't know. I took it a different way, because I just took it as it's supposed to be vague.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
it was relieving to see that, like, I rewatched it yesterday and like just kind of going over the movie again just to kind of refresh my memory on it. And I forgot that entire movie it's supposed to take place in 16 hours.
Right. That's my issue with it.
I was like, damn, this movie's like, it's a lengthy movie, and like obviously not everything happens in real time, but it definitely feels like way more than 16 hours went by.
So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm going to tell you that I didn't even have to tell my daughter I didn't like this movie. Because, again, I'm telling you, my 10-year-old, man, she is on fire. So we go see this movie, and I'm sitting, this is my second viewing, right, at this point in time. She says at the very end of the movie, Daddy, why'd they do it? I was like, what's wrong, baby? She's like, Rey is not a Skywalker, Daddy. She's a Palpatine. And I was like, I know. But Dad, she's not a Skywalker. Why'd she say that? My daughter was pissed.
She is an enlightened young child.
My daughter was pissed, bro. She hated it. She hated it.
I remember sitting in the theater and like people were like cheering when that happened, when she said Rey and Skywalker. And I just looked like to my sides because I'm like with friends, and I'm like, no, you can't just claim that she's a Skywalker.
Well, I mean, I could go on and on. So when Luke comes back as a Force ghost, and she throws away again, paying homage to the last movie, she tries to throw away the lightsaber. Hey, what are you doing? And he goes, this is not how you treat a Jedi's weapon. Well, and she was like, well, pretty much like you did it. And, he was like, oh, I was wrong. I shouldn't have did that. Whatever. I get that. I get they were trying to undo the part that people were really pissed about.
Yeah.
But you set up this precedence where she goes, oh, because you're a Palpatine. Yeah. Leia knew too. And it's kind of like, oh, so you knew this, yet you didn't tell me
this whole time.
Yet, you tell me this whole thing about being true to who you are and accepting who you are and all that stuff. That's the lesson, but you don't tell me that I'm a Palpatine. Like that's just ass backwards.
I could see the whole story would have panned out way differently if she knew from the beginning.
Yeah,
I mean, see that. It's
a longer sentence, right? But if she says something like, I'm Rey Palpatine, pupil to the Skywalkers or something, I'd have been like,
it would have been a little more acceptable.
I'd have been like, all right, I can roll with that. And maybe the legacy going forward is she changes the meaning of what it is to be a Palpatine going forward. And I was talking to our mutual friend Jerry about this, and Jerry was like, well, that's like somebody saying, hey, my name is Hitler, a couple years after Hitler disappeared.
Yeah.
I was like, this is true, but that's why you're supposed to be like this gifted, selected Jedi person. That's
change everything.
Yeah, that's your whole thing.
Start a new thing.
That's your whole thing.
Palpatine name can mean something different.
It can mean something different, and through the backing of the Skywalkers, you're gonna make that happen. Like, why didn't we go that route? Instead, we're just gonna pretend like she's not a Palpatine, like she wasn't on screen thrusting at people, with her Palpatine form and all. Like, you did all these little things to symbolize that there is some sort of relation to Palpatine, and say that it wasn't, and then turn out it was. I don't know. I mean, I really did not like Rise of Skywalker as a movie by itself. Just watching for entertainment, not caring about
the history
of Star Wars. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I think I liked it because of what, all things considered, like it just they rounded it off like in a acceptable way for me.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite movie. It's not even breaking my like top 6.
Wow.
But it's good to watch, and I don't know. There's just too many little nuances in it that just like weirded me out. Like Chewie, when everybody thinks he died.
Chewie should have died, bro.
Yeah, I think that would have been a way more interesting.
You make her live with that. Make her live with that.
That makes you, that hardens you,
Yeah, but it also, like, again, going on the whole thing about accepting who you are, she was doing a good thing, trying to fight off Kylo Ren, lost control because she doesn't know the other half of her power because this was kept from her. Had this come out earlier, maybe she would have learned to control that power, right? It comes out, there's a casualty, it's Chewie. Besides, what the hell are we going to do with Chewie now? Like, Han's gone.
How old is Chewie anyway?
Yeah. Chewie's like hundreds of years old or whatever, right? But let's get rid of Chewie. It's a sad moment in Star Wars, right? God bless you and all that good stuff. And then she lives with that, and she has to walk with that the rest of her. Just like they made Luke to walk with certain things, and have to deal with like his dad being who his dad was. Like let's give her something to chew on.
Yeah. Chew on.
But yeah. I mean, I wanted that. Like when they brought him back 2 scenes later, I was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, and she just like, and the way that they like had her feel like, no, Chewie's alive. Like, what? Like, you can feel when Chewie's alive, but you can't tell when Kylo's like, searching for you or whatever. Like, I guess the Force works in mysterious ways.
Right. I don't know. Okay, and in the backtrack just a little bit, the ending of The Last Jedi. So, I was about ready to jump out of my seat, do backflips in the movie theater. Like I was down, right? Luke Skywalker walks in, and that was going to be my saving grace for this movie, Edgar. Let me tell you, it was going to be my saving grace. And he sees Leia, and she tries to have this conversation with him, and he goes,
"Yeah,
never mind that. I came to get your boy." And she's like, "Oh man, I knew it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get him. It's not gonna be cute. I'm just letting you know now. Like your son is not about to make it today, right? That's where we were. And I'm like, okay, now we gonna see badass Luke Skywalker. He leaves her Han's little dice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, very powerful. He walks out there, and they shoot all those missiles at him. Kylo Ren is losing his shit. And then Luke comes out from the smoke
unscathed
and shakes the dirt off his shoulder. I'm like, Luke Skywalker, motherfucker. That's where I'm at. And I'm like, oh man. And he go out there to go see about his uncle. And he comes out and they have a standoff, and he's just dancing around him. And I'm like, dang. Yeah. All right, where are we going?
Luke's about to like unleash the Force on this guy.
Right. That's where I'm at. That is where I'm at. And then come to find out, he ain't even there.
I'm with you. That was probably the biggest letdown.
I was like,
in the last trilogy.
So at first I was still in. Because what he said was, I'm going to see you around. So I took that, and ladies and gentlemen, my apologies. I am from South LA. When people talk to me that way, I take it as a threat. I'm going to see you around. I was like, oh, this was just a test of wills here to see if that was the one last little I'm going to try to give you a little pass and then I'm really coming for you. And then he dies on the rock. And I'm like,
yeah. Like, all
I'm
right,
out.
well, I mean, he's a ghost now.
I'm out. And then I tried to link it back, like, okay, all right, like I was still trying to save it in my head. I was like, so Palpatine, Snoke is dead and somewhere in the Force, and he's a Force ghost, and Luke is dead and he's a Force ghost. Somehow we're gonna see a fight in the Force world between these two. I'm trying to make it make sense.
This is going to be a ghost expanded universe.
I don't know. I was trying to save it, man, because it just couldn't be. We didn't just lose Luke Skywalker with an unfulfilled threat. Oh man.
Like you said, we just never saw Luke in like his prime or like even like in his last years, like just be a badass.
I mean, they tried to make it seem that way, right? Like when Rey kind of like attacked him. Right, when they were on Octu and he kind of like was about to fall and he caught himself like, I don't even fall for you. What do you think is about to happen?
Yeah.
And then like, it was a kind of a sign of like, you know, a display of like his badassness. Right. And I just felt like we never really went there like we should have. And that was kind of what killed me about all of it, really. I'm like, man, it's like all these little teases and no payoff.
What about what were your feelings regarding the kiss?
Oh.
Unnecessary? I thought it was unnecessary.
What was it about? What was it for?
I mean, I guess for me it kind of threw me off because I was like, all right, well, Finn's the one that has a thing for Rey, so maybe they'll end up having like a moment.
But he don't have a thing for Rey, man.
But that's what you think. That's your opinion. But when I saw them, and I'm like, I guess that's cool. Like everybody that I was with, like enjoyed it. Apparently, they were like, "Oh, finally!" Like I kept hearing that in the theater, like finally, and I'm like, "What do you mean finally?" Like they've hated each other this entire time.
It's such a bad message. It's such a bad message. And then they tried to retcon it and say it wasn't a kiss of love; it was a kiss of
respect.
I mean. If I kissed everybody in the mouth that I respect like that, never mind. We're not even gonna go there. But I can't get on board with that. I can't get on board. Like, as a father to a daughter, like that was one of the scenes we spoke about in depth. Because I just felt like that was the wrong message. Like, it's not even like, you know, how they try to ship two characters together and make it seem like, you know, like there's possibilities. And I guess like in some iterations of different things, maybe, but in terms of Kylo Ren and Rey, no. Like from day one, he was like, I recognize your power. You should come be with me and come be under me because I'm the guy, or I'm going to kill you. You're in my way. And he never wavered from those two opinions. Come serve under me and let me run the world, and you're gonna be my little underling also, or you're gonna die right now. And every time he presented himself to her, he always hit her with those two premises. And in fact, he almost killed her in Force Awakens and would have, right?
Yeah.
Had he not been hurt. That would have been a quick kill for him.
Yep.
Did they fight in Last Jedi?
They fought together.
They fought together, and then again, he wanted her to come with, right?
Yeah.
And he threatened her a bunch of times. And then they fought 2 to 3 times in The Last Jedi. I mean, The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Right? And each time he tried to kill her, and he would have killed her had his mom not caught out to him at that moment in time, because he bested her pretty much, and then she got to stab him. So pretty much, I'm going to go have a thing for someone who's mistreated me this whole time and has been trying to kill me this whole time.
Man, you deep. You went deep with that one.
I mean, that's what you showed me on screen. I didn't even have to think about that. I didn't even have to think about that.
I didn't even see it like that. That's an interesting perspective.
Like there was no actual like they never sat down and had a good conversation or like understood like, oh, this is just a bad situation for him. He's not really bad. Kylo Ren was presented as bad. the whole time. He was this
Yep.
broken dude. And one of the stories that I would have liked to have seen to some capacity, I'm not saying like you need to put that in a Star Wars movie, but what's up with him? Were like Han and Leia not good parents?
Oh yeah.
Because like
Actually, yeah.
it they go, well, Snoke took him, and then on top of the altercation he had with Luke, that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. But why do you turn away from your parents so easily to where you murder your dad and then could have murdered your mom?
Yeah.
Had the stormtroopers do it, or they got to it first because you hesitated and you didn't feel nothing.
Yeah.
They positioned him in a certain way to say this dude is true. He's a brat. He's got hiccups, but he's evil. Like
he was weak when he was good.
Well,
like, he was easily convinced.
Right. Well, think of the psychology that they gave him, right?
Yeah.
From the very second you meet him in The Force Awakens, he goes, "The light's calling to me." Now, anybody that's ever had an urge in your life, you have an urge to do something. That means it's pulling on you really strongly, but yet you're strong enough to ignore that urge and want to walk on the dark side on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's some fucked up psychology in your head, bro.
Yeah.
So what's the underlying story behind that? Were Han and Leia like really like bad parents and then sent them to Luke to go get balance? Like, how you send your reckless kid who likes to fight and beat people up and be a bully, you go send him to
school or something.
Yeah, you send him to karate, martial arts school to go learn discipline and shit. Was it that? Was it like that?
What was on me?
What was going on? Because he was presented a certain way. So now you introduce Rey, who all of a sudden has a thing for him.
It's bizarre.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre.
When you put it even more deep that way, like like it perplexes me even more now. It almost pisses me off.
I couldn't find one good reason, and you could tell me, you could have told me that because they realized they were a dyad, which is some new shit we just made up. But you could say that once they were physically together, that they felt some sort of mutual respect for each other. So she hugged on him and she held him and she cried or something because she felt the light that was actually in him. You could tell me that because now they're connected, but don't tell me like this passionate, romantic kiss, because you just wouldn't. Like, if that's the case, why she ain't never kissed Finn?
Yeah, it's true.
Right? Like they hug all the time, but she doesn't feel that way about Finn.
Or did maybe Kylo knew that he was gonna pass when that happened, and he just needed to do one good deed in order to get into heaven? You know what I mean?
Man, that's the see. You gonna have me go? So they set up the premise that turning into a Force ghost is a feat on its own.
Yeah.
Like you have to be taught that specifically. Now, if he was a pupil under Luke Skywalker, was he at a point where he would have learned that? Right?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Leia stopped her training early.
Yeah.
Because of a prophecy she felt. So when did she learn that? Because even master level Jedis don't all know how to do that. It's not a common thing, right?
No, I remember when I think it was in Rebels when Yoda learned how to become a Force ghost.
Right.
Qui-Gon taught him how to do it.
Qui-Gon taught him, right? Which Qui-Gon is an interesting story. I would love to see a movie about him because he's like
absolutely.
He's like so gray. Like he does like weird. He makes decisions the Jedi Order didn't like. One of them was Anakin, right? And so, Anakin taught him. Luke learned. Did Luke have time to teach those two individuals? Because then how did they turn into Force ghosts? You know what I mean? Like it's so many things that I know they were trying to give it the same spin you give Return of the Jedi at the end to kind of close everything off and all that, but it just didn't make sense. Like for to say that Leia trained Rey to a degree was really hard for me to swallow because even if you want to make canon, which you didn't, obviously that's true in other iterations of Star Wars, that she was actually Jedi material even over Luke. That's not what we went with, right? And so it's really hard for you to show me someone who studied to be a Jedi, stopped early, never practiced again because she wanted to, be a general, take care of her family, whatever else, to then all of a sudden she can teach this person how to be a Jedi because her brother is not going.
Yeah.
That just, I didn't buy it. I didn't believe it.
It's a confusing moment. Just all around, not just the kiss, but like the Force ghosting, like just everything afterwards. I don't know. Maybe it just became easier to become a Force ghost. It was just a matter of thinking about it, like clicking your heels together before you die. And just go,
man,
Force ghost time on.
So I mean, I feel like it's the miscues in storytelling. Not that these characters couldn't be what you were trying to present. It's the fact that you didn't tell the story right to make me believe. Like, one of the things I hear is like, Rey is overpowered. And I don't see it that way. I just see that you didn't give me a reason to buy her abilities.
Yeah.
Same number of movies, 3 movies for Luke. Why is it that I can look at Luke Skywalker as a 60-year-old man and go, oh man, he about to turn it on. He about to really give it to him. Why is it I believe that and want that, but I don't believe this girl in 3 movies? It's the storytelling.
Yeah. The story just didn't move her powers enough. Like that story part of it, like her story of how her abilities grew.
Yeah, it's too much coincidence.
They gave us one decent montage of her cutting down a tree and the tree accidentally landing on BB-8 to tell us that she was working hard to become a better Jedi.
Or just show us the time that's passed by. Maybe if you would have just showed me that, like, literally, like, she was training like this with Leia for a year or whatever, then, maybe her and Leia, you show us them reading the books together and she's trying to remember her training. I don't know. Like,
one good montage. That's all.
One good montage would have did it. Luke in the background, a Force ghost. Like, I
know. Your last movie had to was it 16 hours? That's all you had.
Right. Which, I mean, and then like you sent Lando to go get the rest of the world or the rest of the universe in that short time period.
And they just happened to pop up out of nowhere where there was nobody for a second and just never noticed them over there. The gigantic wall of ships, he just did not notice.
It's just,
You know what? Speaking of Lando, I had one gripe about Lando in the last movie too. He had creepy vibes, like super creepy vibes when he was talking to, I can't think of her name, the ex-stormtrooper girl.
Yeah, I can't remember her name either.
Opposite Finn. Mm-hmm. She, when he was like, where are you from? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, well, let's find out. And you're just like, excuse me, Lando?
Oh man,
what are you trying to find out here? Because she's a third your age.
Yeah, well, I mean, they even insinuated that robot he had in the Solo movie.
Empire?
In the Solo movie, that he was sleeping with that robot.
Yeah,
they insinuated like there was a thing. I don't know.
That was an interesting character.
Yeah, that is an interesting character. Yeah, especially because I don't know if you heard, but that's supposed to be his daughter.
That's supposed to be, and I don't know. Like, at that point, you should probably know.
Yeah. I do have a question. I do have a question though. What's the formula for how they determine if a British actor or actress is gonna use their accent or not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming there's only 2 British actors that I think really, like, lately that have nailed it. Finn and what's his name? Tom Holland.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, Finn is he's British, right?
Oh, let him keep his accent in the movie.
But they make him speak American English in the movie for one reason or the next. And then again, that same girl you referenced, she's also British.
She gets to keep hers.
She got to keep hers. What if she's
not British? What if she's not British? And they told her, yeah, I need you to fake a British accent.
Well, in either case, like how do they what's the formula? Because it works. Yeah, it works. Like, I don't question it. Like, I only question it because I just thought of it. But like, when they write these characters, they go like, you need to speak like you're American. You don't.
Yeah.
I'm
assuming that happens in the audition. Like, they have them sitting in the room and I need you to read for this part or whatever.
Right.
the character that they probably try to use whatever accent they can, and they go like, I need you to sound a little more American.
Right, because someone I was talking to, I'm trying to remember who it was. We were talking, and that person referred to, who was it? That person referred to Finn as African American also, right? And then because we were talking about how some people think that there hasn't been enough diversity or equal opportunity in Star Wars or whatever, and that's why this whole Rey thing came up and whatever. And then we were arguing that that's never been an issue, whatever, right? And then she was like, "Look, they even have Finn, an African American." And I was like, "Actually, he's not African American." We went through that whole thing again, and she was like, "Oh yeah." She was like, "Well," and I was like, "Well, yeah. So if they casted him and he's not actually African American, then is that the reason why they had him not use the accent, or is it because the character just comes off better?"
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I mean, I don't care. It doesn't bother me in any kind of way. I'm just actually like legit curious.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point.
Does Ewan McGregor use his accent? I can't remember. Not really, right? Kind of, sort of.
No, yeah, kind of. He has like that upper class kind of accent.
Right. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, Jana was the character's name.
Okay, I don't know why I couldn't remember her. But yeah, I mean, I don't.
Important.
But like, I kind of felt both. I kind of felt two ways about that character, because on one hand it was like, okay, so there are other stormtroopers who also defected, so which means whatever scenario that they're implementing to get these kids to go along, it's not always working, right? Because we know they take them as kids. So that was interesting to find that that's happened before and that Finn wasn't alone. At the same time, to me, it kind of took away from his story.
From Finn's character?
Yeah, like, I thought you were the only guy who, and like, are all these people who defected, are they force sensitive also? Like, where are we going with this?
Like, all of a sudden, Finn's not special.
Yeah.
He's just another defective trooper that's like, he got caught up in like the wrong group. Like,
right. So we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot, but as a whole, to be honest with you, man, I felt that if I'm rating all three movies, I really feel that Disney missed their mark. I feel that they needed to have. It's very clear they didn't have a plan past the first movie. They just knew that they wanted to do 3, and those plans changed several times over, and they did not coordinate. I mean, we didn't even touch on the whole Palpatine thing and where the hell he came back from. I don't know if we both purposely avoided that subject.
I'm confused by it still. I want to come up with like a logical explanation for it in my own head first.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't think it's gonna happen.
I just, he just
survived.
Yeah, he just played. I mean, that whole scenario just got manipulated in some kind of way, and I was just supposed to say like, "Oh, okay." So I couldn't do it, which is one of the primary reasons I hate Rise of Skywalker. And those last 2 movies are really hard for me to watch. I had a hard time watching them this past weekend for the purposes of recording this podcast. But I do love The Force Awakens. I do love Rogue One. Solo was kind of like, I didn't really need it, so for me, Disney hasn't really brought that magic I was expecting to Star Wars. And I thought they had captured not only mine, but they had the world's attention when The Force Awakens came out. And so, yeah, man, I'm gonna give them a fail. And I'm not judging them from Mandalorian or anything else coming, because I still got hope for those things. But that's where I'm at, man. How do you feel?
I think the movies were a bit of a struggle, but like I said, I wasn't too. I don't know. I wasn't too judgmental about them because I was just excited to see some new Star Wars. So the excitement kind of overtook a lot of the flaws in the movie.
Right on.
But also Disney pretty much they redeemed themselves with like Galaxy's Edge over at Disneyland and stuff like that.
Okay.
Going into Disneyland, like I always like to go walk through that area just based on like how realistic they made that area feel. you go in there and it's like they actually like don't speak to you like they're in Disneyland, like when you're in that park. Like you walk into that area and they greet you like you're on a different planet. Like you mentioned to them, what I just came from Disneyland. They're like, "Where's that? Like is that off the planet? Like what planet is that on?" And like they just like have no idea what's going on.
Oh, wow.
So I already had like a good feeling about this new universe before the movies even like started happening. Like Force Awakens had already come out. I think it was Last Jedi when it was already kind of open.
Okay.
That just kind of helped, make me believe in the new movies a little more because like they really invested themselves into it.
Okay. So they had you
They have
drinking the
characters
Kool-Aid.
running around in there, but you can do like meet and greets with like Rey and like Chewie in there.
Oh, okay.
Rey's just walking around and like they have a character from what's that, the newer show Resistance.
Okay.
That I don't know who she is. Vi, I think her name is.
I can't watch
But
that.
they walk around in character.
Okay.
Like it's kind of cool. Like you get to interact with Rey a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Chewie. Like you just like I was wearing a Chewie t-shirt. I wish I had it so I can send you a picture of it. That just says Chewie is what is it? Chewie is my homie or something like that. And I remember like just running across him at night one night, and then he just saw it and he just like got all like stoked on it and like came up and like gave me a hug. And like, hell yeah! Like this is why I like Star Wars, Like,
right.
And then Disney made this a little like more like believable and made it happen or whatever. So the movies kind of failed ish, but like that good feeling like it carried over into the movies a little bit, so I give him a pass.
I hear you. Yeah, I mean, Star Wars is still something like you can always bond over. I know we've had watch along parties and stuff like that in the past. And so those are always cool, like regardless, so in that case, obviously I am thankful those movies did come out, but in terms of the quality of what we got, I stand by what I said. It's a fail for me, but yeah.
But bless my girlfriend. I love her to death, but we made her sit through every single one of those movies up until The Rise of Skywalker.
Is she not?
Like,
is she not in the Star
we made a
Wars?
plan. She's not.
Hey,
She wasn't. She is now because we made her watch all the movies, and now she's
Okay.
like in love with the characters and everything.
Yeah.
Ewoks.
She was
Ewoks.
she was a trooper, man. The two that I
She
watched
sat
with
through every single one. We watched them like spaced out, one a week, and we skipped
Yeah.
a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But we made it until she got to Rise of Skywalker, and she ended up liking them. So I was like, okay, well, like Disney did their job in like recruiting new fans or whatever.
Okay.
Even that she started with the original trilogy, then watched the prequels, and then watched the last three.
Gotcha.
And it definitely worked that way. So if anybody out there, because I know people that are listening to this right now, not everybody's watched Star Wars. At least a lot of the friends that I've had that are listening to the podcast.
Okay.
They, if you guys watch them, definitely watch them in the order of release, because that's how the magic kind of happens.
That's how the magic happens. Yeah, and that's it's something I flirted with my daughter, being that she's of a certain age. I was like, man, you got an opportunity to watch these movies however you want to, but you never get to undo it. Right. So it's like, that's one experience, like you never get to have that back. So do you watch them in order of release, or do you watch them in chronological order and just kind of have it be a linear thing? But I chose to have her watch it as released. And I don't regret that decision at all.
Yeah. I had to make that same choice with Clone Wars, because when Clone Wars was released, every episode was like scattered. Like there is a chronological order, but you're bouncing around a lot of seasons in order to actually have the story make sense.
Okay.
I asked two friends, Jerry and Garrett, like, hey, like what order would you guys watch it in if you had never watched it again? And they were split. One of them said watch it in the way that it was released and piece it together in your head. The other was like, nah, man, like watch it like story wise. Like it'll all make sense, and like the story really did drive itself the right way.
Okay.
So I don't regret that decision, but I don't know why they do that, man. Like, why is Star Wars the one thing that like just why do you make things so complicated?
I mean, it's a part of the process though. It's part of what makes you think to be able to retroactively go back and like place things where they weren't before and kind of come up with new ideas. I think that's an interesting take, and it doesn't always work. And I'm getting to a point where I want to see them go forward. So that's my problem with the High Republic stuff, is we're going to go further back in time.
Yeah.
And I remember like my son was watching the Clone Wars series, and some things would happen. He was like, Dad, this happened before Luke or after? And then he'll watch like, The Mandalorian. Dad, when did this happen? And I have to sit there and
Yeah.
think sometimes, like, fuck, when did this happen?
Every time I watch anything Star Wars now, I have to pull out my phone so that I can look up that physical timeline that
Yeah.
shows like where everything happens.
Oh God.
And I'm like, okay, so that hasn't happened yet. Cool. Now I'm in the right mindset. Let's do
Right,
this.
right. I hear you. But hey, folks, we love to hear what you think about Star Wars. Drop a comment, send an email. Maybe we address this again from a different angle. Let us know what you think about it, all right? If you got a show topic or question, definitely send it in to WUKAIpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you know about it. Anything in closing, Edgar?
I hope everybody's enjoying the audio quality on this one because no longer am I on a phone. We have set up microphones to be able to
upgraded.
Yes, we have. And big thanks to Rob because he's invested a lot of his personal time into making sure that this is right.
Oh man, no, we just gonna do it the way we supposed to do it, man. That's all. We're gonna grow a little bit every so often, ladies and gentlemen, and keep this going and just try to get something memorable for you guys to talk about and to listen to. All right, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here until next time. Be safe, be kind, and live a little.